Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast, now approaching our 7th season, looking into the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club. I'm Richard Woodward and you are tuned into the flagship show, available occasionally during the summer on video and audio. So from the irreverent but always informative hour or so of football conversation, make your Monday a Blue Monday. And joining me for his second appearance of the week, prolific stuff in the off-season from Joe Fairs, evening to Joe, and dialing in from just the right side of the Welsh border. Well, no, let's leave that up to interpretation. Seb Brown, welcome back to the pod, Seb. Let's start with you. How's summer treating you? How's the off-season treating you?
Well, it's nice, isn't it? Suddenly we've got a bit of sunshine and a bit of better weather, and suddenly Ipswich Town are signing players. So at the minute, it's all looking pretty rosy with the Euros about to start. So life's good at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And Joe, you're fresh off the back of your Mark Ashton hour-long saga with you and Craig. No one broke anything, despite as per my instructions, which was good and well received, which is excellent. I'm back again for more.
Yeah, no, and also nice to come back off a weekend with a bit of sunshine, isn't it? I've had sort of a inside barbecue Friday night, out for dinner Saturday, another barbecue today. England won again. I'm finally. I actually had a barbecue for lunch and then went to a barbecue for dinner as well. So it's
blimey, Joe.
Been a double barbecue day. So you can't beat it in the sun, can you?
Your veins will be teeming with barbecue sauce. It's brilliant. And the good thing is, as Seb has alluded to, plenty of good news to chat about this week. So we'll do it in chronological order. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. We've got some questions as well. I've got some pictures to put up on the screen. Have a bit of a laugh, it's like in a school, buckaroo and all that stuff. Let's start on Wednesday. We dealt with Monday and Tuesday, wasn't it, when Mark Ashton came in, and that show's still available. Craig and Joe went through his opening day quotes, a lot of it. It's already kind of come to fruition as well. Seb, do you want to give us your kind of 30 seconds on first impressions of Mark Ashton?
Yeah, just obviously very impressed. You're not going to get to his kind of level without being a superb speaker. He's saying all the right things. And, I guess on Tuesday we all heard the right things, but the proof was in the pudding, so to speak. Is he going to start delivering on stuff? And within, 72 hours, we've suddenly got two new players through the door and things look to be cracking on nicely. So, yeah, at least we've got some kind of structure now. He's coming across very, very well, and long may it continue.
And I've moved down from the Midlands down back to Suffolk, and there's a reassuring sound of a I think I would call it a black country accent, but for everyone else a West Midlands accent from Mark Ashton there. So I need to be careful I don't shift back into that and go back to
your Paul Cook voice is better.
Well, Paul Cook might make an appearance later on. And similarly encouraged by Mark Ashton's words. One of the nerdy things that I picked out as well was the pitch. And how finally, I think in the championship, I must have mentioned this a few times. I'm like a broken record. I think we were one of the only teams that didn't have a kind of synthetic underweaving to the pitch. We had kind of a fully organic Suffolk-esque pitch, but one of the only clubs to not have made that investment in the top 2 tiers. So hopefully we'll be in the top 2 tiers next season when that investment gets made. But even stuff like that, I think is really good to hear. So yes, good stuff from Mr. Ashton. Wednesday, gents, we talked about this, Joe, on the end of season review show with Andy, who alluded to the possibility of a positive outcome to this. But Ipswich Town women's team have been promoted via a kind of end of season process to the FA Women's National League Southern Premier Division, the 3rd tier of women's football, after successfully applying for it, which is fantastic news. And as we said at the time a few weeks back, clearly a long overdue thing because of COVID, but fantastic news and positive for them, because they've basically been spanking their oppositions most weeks for the last 2 years. So it'll certainly be a different challenge for them next season.
Yeah, and it's well deserved, isn't it? They would have been promoted, but for the season ended early, sort of 2 seasons ago. This year barely got going. I think they only played 4 games, but they scored 18 goals and conceded none. So I think they showed their class even in this season. But it's a shame it's taken so long, but it's great to see them there. And when you look to see that's the 3rd tier they're in now. I know that it's regional at the 3rd tier, but you've just got the Super League above it and the Championship, and I think there's only 10 or 12 teams in each of those leagues. So they're they're very close to putting in there. And the sort of manager Joe Sheehan came out. He was pretty bullish that he's looking to get promoted this season out of this league, and he's not putting it off there. And I say, why not? There's some long journeys in this one. I think Plymouth is in the league, and
Cardiff,
Southampton, Cardiff. There's a lot of, but then we're probably the most northern team in it. It's a lot of Southern Yeovil or whatever. I don't know if they're called Yeovil now, but the
Yeovil Town Ladies. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Yeovil Town Ladies, and are across there. But yeah, there's some decent sized clubs in there, and there's no reason why we can't continue to be successful in there. Like you look at just a list of sort of youth internationals the club have got, and you look to see how well the under-21s team are doing in the sort of Premier Academy League, where they come up against the biggest clubs in the country and are sort of get good results. It seems nearly every week, and yeah, the future's very bright on that side. And we are, I think Norwich are staying down, or they might have even gone down a tier, I don't know, but we are very much a Premier East Anglian club in the ladies side, and they're putting the investment in there. I think they're schooling at St Joe's, one of the private schools, with sort of with the girls coming in almost sort of full time, and they're really pushing it on that side. It's great to see, and I think that's something that the sort of Americans and Mark Ashton will push even further, because it's sort of community side. It's obviously women's sport women's football especially is very big in America, and if we can sort of get into the top tier in that league, or the second tier, and that will really sort of help us as a brand.
Yeah, spot on. And you know, the women's game has grown massively since the World Cup a few years ago as well, and the fact that Ipswich's team has had so much relative success, obviously stifled somewhat by the pyramid kind of failing around COVID and lockdown and so on. It's good that obviously they're now at a stature that's more befitting their abilities, but it's also another area of positivity around the club in general, isn't it, Seb? Which, you know, there's positivity growing in lots of areas. You include the under-18s in that, for example, as well. So lots to be chipper about.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, we're all really excited with the game changer stuff and the stuff coming into the men's team, but the women have done absolutely superbly now for 2 years, haven't they? Like Joe said, you know, they totally deserve the promotion. I guess there was a bit of a fear if they hadn't had the application process with the side, maybe have started to break up a little bit, but fully deserved to get promoted. And it's just another success in the last 3 months now. Is it 2 months of off-field, not men's on-field stuff, but off-field kind of good news, just rolling and building momentum for the new season.
Yep. On to Thursday, there was a point partway through the day when the club's social media started to tease the new shirt, where Joe and I were on standby, and the kit was announced, the home shirt with featuring Ed Sheeran's tour, which is all very exciting. And I'll put an image of it up here for those of you watching on YouTube. Steph, we'll stick with you. Your immediate reaction, was it as kind of...
It's all right, isn't it? I mean, it's not amazing, let's be honest, but we have to remember these things chosen like two managers ago. So to me, it looks like an exact carbon copy of the first, in 1920 kit, the first kit down in League One, but with the really small black pinstripes added. So it's all right, but let's be honest, with the Ed Sheeran sponsorship, it's going to absolutely sell, absolutely tons of them. I have pre-ordered it. I did it last night, and I'll be honest, I was at a barbecue all day drinking a few beers, so I mistakenly ordered two. I ordered two by mistake, so I've got I've paid 96 quid to the club for one shirt. I'm hoping they can rectify that quite quickly. But I have pre-ordered it, and I think it will sell absolutely tons, mainly for the Ed Sheeran thing, less so for the kind of generic design. I guess with Adidas as our partner, we're always going to be limited by these kind of stock shirts, and it looks okay. It's nothing amazing, but the really nice one, I guess you're going to come on to, is the goalie top, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, if you're in the market for an extra town share, then
feel free to contact me. Yeah,
Brown S08 on the Twitter, isn't it?
You do have to be a little bit pounding timber, though. It is a 2XL, so
there you go.
Thin people need not apply.
Hey, we're a diverse show. We welcome people of all sizes and whatevers. Let's move on to the keeper shirts before I say something stupid. Joe, a yellow, bright yellow goalie shirt. It looks like it's got some kind of tigery stripe stuff on it. And then this black and grey second one, which reminds me, this one reminds me of the yellow one of the, was it 99, 2000?
Yeah, the Green King one, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's a bright yellow shirt that Richard Wright wore, I think, maybe once or twice in the Prem. And the second one, the grey one, the black one, certainly 01, 02, definitely chimes of that. I like the goalie kits.
Yeah, I just don't quite like the little patterny bit on it though. If it was just plain
Okay.
black, I think it'd look even better there. I think sometimes when you see it, doesn't quite look as good with the pattern on it. But yeah, no, nice shirts. I also have pre-ordered a home shirt. I'm sort of ahead of the game on those.
Is that to be worn, or is that going to be framed or something, Joe? Because
No, I wear it. I sort
still
of tend to wear them through the season and then just put them away into the collection. But yeah, I really like the new kit, but it is so similar to 1920. But I like the 1920 kit. But
1920 kit's good. I've got that.
yeah, I did see someone make a post on TWTD where they basically said they talk that the kits are signed off sort of 15 months in advance. So this kit was signed off when we effectively had exactly the same kit, when we didn't know we were changing sponsor. So somebody's basically signed that kit off where it could have still had the same Magical Vegas sponsorship on there, and 1920 and 21-22 would have almost looked from any distance exactly the same kit. So it is a very, very lazy choice for me. But I like it because it looks decent, but it is a lazy choice, and hopefully going forwards there might be a little bit more thought behind it, because people say, oh well, our kits are always going to look the same because they're always going to be blue and Adidas, but ultimately we've had like 8 Adidas kits and no 2 have looked the same like this one and the previous one did. They've all had slight differences, but yeah, no, decent kit but a bit lazy.
Yeah, it's a 6 or a 7 out of 10, isn't it? I don't think it's any better than that, and we now wait with anticipation for hopefully an imaginative away shirt, which rumor has it, we've divulged this already in the previous shows, is likely to be white, which I think
hopefully it'll have the black pinstripes on it as well. But
I mean, I was going to say,
Yeah,
if
nice.
it's a carbon copy of the home shirt just with white and black trim instead, then I think that would be pretty classic, and I think that would go down quite well.
And I do like, as a kit aficionado, I do like when the sort of home and away kit are matched together and sort of the same. I think the last time we did it was probably our first year of Adidas, 2014-15. The blue and the orange kits were just blue and white, orange and black, same template, same design, and just, but they sort of, I don't know, I just think it looks good when your home and away kits are the same template effectively and just flip between the different colour schemes. So we'll see what they do on that.
So fingers crossed for that. And that wasn't the end of the exciting news. On Thursday, gents, rumours started to circle of an imminent transfer, the first of the summer. And on Thursday afternoon, Wes Burns was announced. Boo Earns from Fleetwood on a 3-year deal for an undisclosed fee, as these things tend to be. And what was your, well, we'll keep with Joe. What was your immediate reaction to Wes Burns? Did you recall the Fleetwood goal from the last day of the season?
Yeah, and he had played well against us sort of both times against Fleetwood. I think he'd given Kenlock a torrid time up at their place. I thought he did well down here, but it was almost like one of those Jamal Campbell Rice displays where we were sort of 3-0 up and the game was won, and he just put on a little one-man show because the game was over. But no, I thought he's got pace to burn, and I think that's just something we've missed, other than sort of Gwion Edwards and Kane Vincent-Young. What pace have we got in the team? So it is something that we desperately miss and something we severely lack, and he definitely has it to burn. Like I say, he's no pun intended there, but versatile, can cover sort of right back, right wing back, right wing. So yeah, no, good signing, good player at this level, and I think he's one that would have probably, you'd have expected to get sort of a lower end championship club. So the fact that we were able to get him speaks volumes for the sort of backing that Paul Cook's going to receive this window, which is what we want to see and what we need to see.
Yeah, he was linked with Coventry, and I don't know whether I should make any further comments on that one. Seb, your thoughts? I mean, as Joe said, the fact that he can fill a number of positions down the right hand side is really helpful, isn't it?
Yeah, always useful. So I guess primarily he'll be in the wide right spot and just use his pace all day long to hopefully dovetail quite well with Vincent-Young and just keep running all game. In that game at the end of the season, we saw when he puts the afterburners on, he can shift, and also being able to cover it right back is useful given Vincent-Young's injury situation. He's of a good age. Is he 26, 27, isn't he? So he's of a good age coming in, hopefully trying to bolster those kind of age numbers in the squad a little bit. And yeah, a good positive signing. And if we are beating off lower end championship sides, I guess that kind of tells you what the project that they've all been sold is, and hopefully we'll look to push on.
Yeah, and I quite like the idea of Burns and Vincent-Young overlapping and swapping positions potentially every now and then, which would be good. And you think he'll be on the right hand side of the three?
Well, it will depend who else we sign, obviously, but Cook is obviously going to play a 4-2-3-1, isn't he? So he's either going to be at right back if Vincent Young isn't going to be able to play 46 games in the season, or I guess he'll play on that wide right, depending who else comes in. But also even as a bench option, you know, it never hurts to have pace coming off the bench late in games and running at tired legs. So a bit of versatility is always useful and a really good acquisition.
I think Vincent Young has also played a lot of left back for Culture as well, hasn't he? So maybe there'll be Burns on the right, Vincent Young on the left. But it's you. I think Paul Cook likes to work with a small squad, sort of 18 to 20 players. And if you are going to do that, you need to have some versatile players. Now you need a few players that can cover a couple of positions. And like I say, even if you look at the very top managers, you sort of Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, they like that small squad of 18, 20 players, but they need to get a few very versatile players in that can cover sort of 4 or 5 positions in one. And if Burns can cover 2 positions, Vincent Young can cover right back and left back. You end up with a few players covering a few, and then you don't need to have so much filler. And that means your bench options are better because you've got a player that can cover 2 rather than needing 2 on the bench to cover the positions.
Joe, your thoughts on what this transfer kind of illustrates for the type of scouting or players that we're searching for? Because previously to Mark Ashton coming in, you know, there's some links, and one of the players that we were linked with ends up signing on Friday. Spoiler alert! But I think there was perhaps a fear. I think we've spoken about it of us maybe shopping in a market that we couldn't really afford to shop in, and ending up kind of losing out to the teams in the Championship. You know, the Sonny Bradley link. Kind of the more people kind of talk about it, the less likely it sounded to happen, or was never even going to happen in the first place. But a little bit relieved that, or a little bit reassured that maybe we are making clever signings rather than just trying to buy a Championship all-star team, or maybe even a Championship reject team and get promoted that way.
Well, I think it is going to end up something along those lines, or like a League One all-star to be going for. But,
yeah.
But when you think about it, we are very, very much in a win now mode. We need to get promoted this season or get very close to it to go again next year. And I think Paul Cook's judgment is going to be backed rather than Mark Ashton's at this stage in bringing in ready players who have probably worked under Cook before, who he knows, they know his system. They are going to be able to help implement that system on the pitch as well as off it, which when we go on to the next signing will sort of be a key example of that. But yeah, I don't see that there's going to be this revolutionary window where we're trying to pick up young 16-year-olds from out of Mongolia who have shown a bit of potential to try and bring in and sort of push up there. But I think that stuff will come. But I think this window now is about establishing a squad that is good enough to win League One, and that's what we've got to focus on. And we've got a manager who knows how to win this league, who's won it once, as he's won League Two twice. He's a manager that knows how to win leagues. He knows the sort of players he wants, and I think any long-term plan is effectively on hold until we get this window out of the way. I'm sure it'll be going on in the background, but any long-term plan is on hold because in the short term, we're back at pre-season training on the 25th of June, and we need a squad in place that is good enough to win this league.
Yeah, and I think that kind of there's definitely a strand to, or a theme to the kind of players that are brought in, because Lee Evans is signed 24 hours later, Seb. And again, kind of a player who's had an impressive season in League One. And I think Wes Burns might have played in teams where Mark Ashton was at the club at the same
Bristol
time.
City, wasn't he, I think? Yeah.
And Oxford, I think he might have mentioned as well. And this, whereas Wes Burns might have been influenced perhaps by Mark Ashton, this signing of Lee Evans feels very much influenced by Paul Cook. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, within 2 or 3 weeks of Cook joining, there were rumours, weren't there, that he would go back to
April,
Wigan for the likes of Evans and maybe a couple more, with their Wigan situation being perilous at the time. So, managers do go for what they know, don't they? Let's be honest. Roy Keane kind of did it. Mick used to do it. If you want your generals in your dressing room, as they always say, or your generals on the pitch, they're always going to go back to the players that they know. And clearly for Cook, Evans is one of those kind of players. For us, it sounds like an absolutely great coup. Everyone's, I'm sure, seen the goal on on YouTube and stuff. That's not what he's going to bring to the table. It's more the energy and the security for those front three and the striker. That's what he's going to bring. Fitness. He seems to play a decent amount of games each year, and he's just going to be one of those players Cook can sort of hang his hat on and say, right, for the next 46 games, I can leave Evans in that position to play the 40 or so and not have to worry about him, because every single week I'm going to get a solid, 7 or 8 out of 10 from him. So another really, really decent signing, and I guess setting out a marker for what might come in the future.
And this feels like a not wishing to put a downer on Cole Scouse, but he had a role to play in the team. This feels like a more progressive version of Cole Scouse, perhaps.
It seems like it, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean,
especially if he's going with a 2 rather than a defensive midfielder.
Yeah, well, no, he'll go for a 2, and I guess he wants energy in that. That's the key thing, is he's going to want those box-to-box kind of players to help out all over the pitch. Scouse, by the end of his Town career, the legs weren't able to do that, but Cook looks like, Evans looks like he can slot in nicely, either alongside somebody like a Downs or somebody else coming in, or a Nolan with his box-to-box energy, and perhaps look to strike up a real relationship and give that assurance and that quality in the middle of the park, because that'll be so crucial. How many times last year did we go to somebody like Accrington away, Fleetwood away, we'd meet an old schooler at League One level like a Glenn Whelan, who would just absolutely run the game. Ledbetter, Sunderland did it against us. They'll just run the game, and it's vital that we get that bit of nous in there, because winning that battle in the centre of the pitch can make all the difference.
Another 26-year-old as well, Joe, and a player that's Wigan, Sheffield United, Wolves. There's some good pedigree there at a good age. Are you happy with this signing?
Yeah, very happy with it. And Paul Cook needs to get some of his guys in, and I think Lee Evans is the ultimate illustration of what his guys are. Effectively, he's someone that he's had a few times. I've sort of mentioned on the pod a few times in recent weeks that just I think the squad has been let down by the sort of players in that sort of 26, 27, 28, 29 range, those players that should be coming in their peak, that you should be able to hang your hat on for a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 performance every single week, because the only players in the squad sort of you could probably hang your hat on at the moment was probably Luke Chambers. And when you're 35, you're not a 7 or 8 out of 10 every week. You become a 6 or 7 out of 10 every week. And you needed some of those prime players to help the young kids out and to help the older players out. And we just have not had anyone in that middle bit. We've had a team with sort of young players and old players, and no one in their prime. And we seem to have signed 2 players in sort of very much in their prime, coming into their prime. 2 players who've got good experience at this level, and in Evans' case, at the level above, players that have had success. And that's what you need. You needed to make these sort of signings, and it's good that Cook is being back to do it so quickly.
And Seb, I mentioned this incidentally. Two players from Wales, so something you bloody love.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Being just the right side of the border, as you said earlier. Long live the Welsh.
I meant the right side, as in left and right, as in you're the right hand side of it.
Long live the Welsh contingent. Yeah, it's always good when we've got a Welshman in the squad. A Geraint Williams or a Emir Hughes in his first time round. Johnny Williams obviously coming in and out and stuff. So it always nice to have a Welshman in the squad.
And you want,
but what's good about Cook as well, obviously, that I like is Evans, that I like is the fact he's going to know exactly what he's got to do. He's going to come in on day 1 of pre-season, and he will know exactly what is expected of him for pretty much the next 3 years. So like I said earlier, it's one more thing that Paul Cook kind of doesn't have to worry about. He can look at other areas of the squad because he's got that guy there who knows exactly what is expected of him week in, week out. He seems to be a bit of a leader, hopefully, in the dressing room. So it's an extra voice, given that we've lost the likes of Scouse and Chambers. That dressing room, maybe Norwood aside, is probably going to be quite a quiet place. So hopefully he can add to that. And I just think it's a good signing all round.
Yeah, he also doesn't just know his job. He knows the job of the person next to him needs to be doing as well. Yeah. So you've got somebody to look after that too, effectively now. Whoever comes in the side there, you've got someone who can know what he needs to do, know what his partner needs to be doing, because they know sort of off the back of the hand what Paul Cook wants from those midfielders. And that's, like I said, this is what we need. We need to start forming some partnerships in that squad, and I think this will help.
Harry's covalent bonds, like he
Harry's
always used to say.
Covalent bonds. I was going to say, ask you guys quickly, does he get the armband? Do you think the captain's armband?
It depends who else we sign, I guess, doesn't it? Some of the names you're seeing out there on social media, there might be potentially bigger captain material kind of people, hopefully, on their way in. But if not, there's no reason why he couldn't. Cook clearly trusts him, so there's no reason why he couldn't get the armband.
Was he the captain at Wigan? I don't know who the captain was there. But
good question. I'm not 100. I will look that up and try and do kind of my driving the car whilst playing with the radio
Do you want me to
station.
check it whilst you're doing stuff?
Go for that.
But you want a team of leaders anyway. You need to have, I say, when you look back to that team, sort of our last, well, you can look back at sort of like 14, 15, but sort of looking more back at like 2000, 2001, where you had like Tony Mowbray at the back, who was a captain sort of everywhere he'd been, Matty Holland, Jim Magilton. So these are players that are captains, aren't they? And you need 4 or 5 of them in the team, and we just haven't had that, have we, at all?
No,
Jamie Jones apparently is the Wigan captain, by the way. Sorry, just throw it in there.
No, you can't make a goalie a captain.
Keeper, yeah, he's a keeper.
You got to question Cook's judgment on that.
That was Liam Richardson, wasn't it? Who was captain at the start of the season? So go and find the match report from the 3-0. So a midfielder through the door, a winger through the door. And talking of wings, if you like chicken wings, I still think our friends at Favourite Chicken are offering 20% discount for Blue Monday subscribers if you use the code BM20 at the checkout and go to www.chicken-ipswich.co.uk. So do take advantage of that offer. Not sure how long it lasts or whether it's replaced by something new, but very much endorse some fried chicken goodness, and perfect for the Euros as well. Seamless link, guys. It's like I'm a host who knows what he's playing at. Moving on to more bits and pieces of news. And Joe, interested to get your thoughts, particularly on Seb, if you've got any thoughts too, on the quartet, as TWTD called them, of Levi Ando, Bailey Clements, Tommy Hughes and Ben Morris being offered extensions to their contract. All 4 were out of contract but had options which have been triggered. Your thoughts on those ones? I think, trying to think, none of them really had an opportunity in the first team. Few loans in there, and Ben Morris obviously quite a significant injury going into the season. I think got fit and then got injured again, didn't he? But your thoughts on those ones, Joe?
Yeah, I was surprised by some. I think Bailey Clements went to Dagenham at the start of the season and was there for a season-long loan and ended up being sent back at Christmas and hadn't played a single game for them. So he obviously didn't make any impact there at all. But apparently he'd done well in the under-23s. Tommy Hughes has been injured all season. Ben Morris has now had 3 very serious injuries in his sort of young career. But he was a player that gets close to the first team when he's fit. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm glad to see Ben Morris has got another one. I personally wasn't overly fussed about Bailey Clements and Tommy Hughes, but from what I understand, they're all sort of Kieran Dyer. He's the one that's made the decision on those to give them another year because he sees something in them. And I say I haven't, because I haven't been able to go to games all year. I just haven't seen them at all to know what progress they've made. So it's very difficult to make a judgment on that. I think Levi Ando had sort of he played for Lowestoft for a bit the season before last, but again another player that's missed out because of COVID, not being able to drop down there. But he's sort of been reinvented sort of from a centre back to a right back. And I don't know if people saw the goal in the I think it was a Nottingham Forest game where Tyrese Simpson scored a little flick, and it's Ando taking that great first touch and flying down the right wing. And I think he'd been earmarked as somebody that might make a little impact in the first team at the end of the season that Paul Cook wanted to look at. So he's obviously come in and done well. So yeah, good on all 4 of them, and we'll see if any of them can take the opportunity. And I think it'll probably be a case of getting them fit and maybe getting them out on loan somewhere, because they're all of an age where they would need to be named in the squad. And I think we're limited on numbers in that. So it's maybe just a case of trying to get them fit, getting them out on loan, seeing what they can offer and going from there. And
I guess the one that most people will know about is Ben Morris. Been really unfortunate, hasn't he? But even I remember the Blackburn game at the start of the 18-19 season, him coming off the bench and having actually had a pretty decent pre-season and thinking he's a real prospect here. So I get a good opportunity for him to get fit and to maybe show some of that ability that we'd got a brief glimpse of.
And he's very much a player that can play in the wide roles in the 4-2-3-1 as well. He's sort of played a lot for England as a youngster, under 17s, under 19s, and went away to a couple of tournaments with them. So he's got talent. He's a very talented boy. He's got pace, good finisher, but he's missed so much time. It's just a case of, but he'd missed all that time before he came back and was apparently flying again, and then suffered an injury again, and comes back from that, suffers another one, and they all seem to be. I think they've been 2 cruciates and an Achilles, I think it is. So it's just desperately unlucky. But you'd love to see someone like that who's gone through so much, sort of kept himself going to actually come in and make an impact. And I certainly wouldn't bet against him.
Seb, any additional thoughts on those guys?
No, like you said, Ben Morris is the one, isn't he? He had that chance on Paul Hurst's first game of the season where he came on. I remember a really good sort of cut back in the area and got a shot off. So he looked really, really bright, and he's been so unlucky with the injuries, hasn't he? So, like you guys said, hopefully he can get himself fit and either go out on loan and sort of show what he can do, or maybe make the odd fleeting appearance for the first team this season. Because we always want to, although it's getting exciting with people coming in, all the new bodies that are going to be arriving, it's still nice to have people from your academy, isn't it, coming through and making impacts, albeit off the bench or in the first team. So hopefully they can make a bit of a difference in either the Papa John's games or the early rounds of the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup or whatever.
Yeah, here. And finally, Seb, well, in terms of news, I mean, we're starting to get the usual transfer links, and I think we'll try to avoid speculating on those. Though feel free to chip them in if they're relevant for the questions coming up shortly. But the club revealed earlier today, actually on Sunday, that season ticket sales had reached almost 10,000, and obviously pushing renewals, which I think the early bird deadline is this week, and that applies to people who had a season ticket this past season and the one before. In the context of COVID still being out there and maybe an uncertain couple of months, but also obviously the positivity around the takeover and Paul Cook and what have you, that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're sort of saying 9,000 or so have renewed from last year, and about 1,000 from the 1920 campaign. So that's superb numbers, given that there is still uncertainty around the game. Watching the England game tonight, there's an awful lot of empty seats still at the Riverside. So there's no guarantee that we'll be able to start going again in August. Fingers crossed. Touch wood. Hopefully we can. And if the Americans are there, it's going to be a hell of an occasion. You're looking at hopefully getting 22, 23, 24,000 maybe in there. And obviously as the season goes on, if we are successful as we hope we will all be, it'll be absolutely fantastic to see the place rocking. But it's a real sort of it's a statement by the fans, isn't it? They're all behind this, they're all excited. Finally we feel valued. We don't just feel like sort of customers awaiting a statement or something by Evans. We feel like we've got a part to play in this, and it's really, really impressive, the numbers so far, and long may it continue.
If we're all looking in the same direction, all we've got to do is keep on walking. And it'd be good to have contactless payment and good food selection at a good price and all that.
Scoreboards,
So and Mark Ashton seems to take that stuff seriously and has got definitely a track record of Community Club of the Year and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, plenty to be excited about there, and fingers crossed August we can all be in the ground. That's it for the news. We can go on to some questions, guys. I'll do these in the order that I've typed them up. So let's start with Graham's question here. Realistically, if Norwood stays, how many strikers are we looking to buy? I'd imagine I would hope for 2. Joe?
I think that's correct. I think we need at least 3 up there. We know Jackson is a player that they're trying to get out the door. They've only taken his option to try and get a fee for him. Ollie Hawkins isn't going to get you goals at this level, or any level possibly. Freddie Sears is gone. Aaron Drinnan is a player that isn't going to get you goals, and I think you need Norwood plus 2. Yeah, that'd be what I'd be hoping for and what I'd be going for. And I wouldn't bet against Norwood sort of winning that competition and being the one that stays in the team. If he can go away, have a really good summer, come back flying, I don't think there's going to be many better strikers than him at this level. But I think he's going to have some serious competition for his place. There was a link with Jaden Stockley today from Preston. So we're not going to just go with Norwood plus a couple of substandard behind him, and then James Norwood only play 20 games again. We can't allow something like that to happen again, and I'm sure we won't.
And Colby Bishop, Leamington.
Yeah, Colby Bishop, and I think that's one that Paul Cook is very, very keen on, Colby Bishop.
And I just went against my own guidance there, so I'm talking about transfer rumours. But anyway, this shows what I know and how much control I have on podcast content. Seb, Ben, and it's kind of it dovetails quite nicely to the previous question. How many players do you think we'll need in? We'll then be able to tick them off as they come in during the next few weeks. And what number say you, Seb?
Well, overall, I guess what we've got 2 in the door so far. We're still going to need probably we definitely need a left back, a centre back, 2 strikers, and I still think we need somebody in the wide positions or the number 10. So you're probably still looking at another half a dozen players, hopefully, to come in. People will say we need a new goalkeeper, especially you. That's not for me an area that is that crucial. I'd much rather we did our business at the other end of the pitch. But I think at a certain other half dozen, maybe another 6 or 7 to come in. And if they have the same caliber of the 2 guys we've brought in this week, we'll be in a great position. And hopefully it'll start to tick off nicely now, because pre-season is 3 weeks away now, isn't it, from start of pre-season? So you want to get the vast majority of your business done by then, so they can all come in. Cook is going to have them running and really get the fitness levels high going into the season, based on what he said at the back end of last year. So you want to get the vast majority of your squad done and dusted, ready to go, and hopefully we'll see hopefully another 2 or 3 in the next week to 10 days.
Just need to play Di Cornell in goal, don't we? Evening Wales. Joe, any advice?
We need to start ticking. I think we need to start ticking players out the door as well, though.
Well, yeah, we've got. It's still a massive.
At the
squad,
moment, I think we're at 22 players, so we're not quite at sort of 1 in, 1 out, but we probably do need 8 in, 8 out, really.
So, but the trading. The player trading stuff that Ashton said was interesting, wasn't it? When he was saying about, oh, go on, sorry.
So we have a question from FPL Tractor. I'm still surprised how many players we retained. Do you think Ashton will be able to offload most/all the unwanted ones, or could we have a bunch of unhappy players on the fringes?
I think we could, because I know they're talking about player trading, but then once you saw Wes Burns going to Fleetwood, it was mentioned on TWTD, and you thought, oh, maybe that is the case that Janoy Danasia might go the other way as one there, but he didn't. And I don't know. I've said it sort of a long time on since the sort of extra players had their options taken. I don't see it working out as well as the club hope it will, because there's so many free agents out there. Why are players going to take players from us when there's firstly there's a load of free agents, and secondly there's very little money in these clubs? Like there's players signing contracts at the moment with COVID clauses in them, saying if the season gets stopped for whatever reason, I won't be getting paid, because these clubs just cannot afford to sort of take risks with it. And there's the bottom 2 tiers have been decimated by COVID, and there's probably between sort of League 1 and League 2, you're probably looking at a few clubs that are paying even a couple of grand a week, and there's probably very little difference between League 1 teams, taking aside the big guys in the division like us and Sunderland and Sheffield Wednesday, but outside the top 8 teams, and then from there to the bottom of League 2, you're probably talking players sort of 1,500, 2 grand a week tops. And if we've got these players on contracts, why would we be able to shift them as opposed to then just pick up alternatives? But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully Mark Ashton is able to get it sorted. But I do worry come that first day of pre-season, we're going to end up with like a bomb squad of players having to train away from the first team, and that's just not good for anyone.
Do you think, either of you, that we might start seeing some of these retained players? I guess the loan is the preference, isn't it? And maybe you get a fraction of the wages that you'd be paying them. But do you reckon we might end up settling contracts and letting players leave for free?
Potentially.
That we can't shift?
Yeah, potentially. Maybe, we all know the good old FC mutual consent has been around in the past, so there's no reason why we couldn't look to do that. Like Joe says, what you don't want is suddenly you've got 7, 8 players all stood at the side of Playford Road on the first day of pre-season, knowing they're not going to be involved, because that negativity will just spread throughout the squad, won't it? You don't want that. You need a close-knit, all working together squad. You don't want any kind of negative influences. Maybe the likes of, if you're looking at somebody like Bishop, maybe from Accrington, perhaps you could look to offer Jackson as well as a bit of money, that kind of thing. We might see a couple of players go out that way. I saw on the forum today that QPR are apparently interested in Dizelle again, so he might get a move upwards. But we do need to start shifting some out, because it's 23 people you can register next year, 22 is it? Yeah, and we must be pretty close to that limit now already, given all the players that we extended the options on. So there were some strange decisions with the contracts with the likes of Drinnan and stuff. So they clearly must have a plan for it, but at this point we don't really know what that is, I guess. And
to FPL Tractor's point, time for Mark Ashton to earn his money, isn't it? Jason, up next. I've grown up more often than not expressing myself after games with typical Ipswich. Do you believe that with all that's happening, we're no longer going to be walking home muttering typical Ipswich? Seb?
Well,
I
hopefully,
mean,
yeah.
you walk away from the ground and then you have to drive all the way home as well afterwards up the A14 and M6.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do you
How many times have we
typically-
been to an away day in November and we've lost in the last minute or something after playing really well, and we've just gone, that's just so us. Hopefully, with this new positivity, that mindset will change, and hopefully, typically Ipswich might become a thing for success. If we can start winning some games and get a bit of momentum of stuff, there's no reason we couldn't walk away from grounds going, yeah, we weren't great today, but we won. Brilliant, typical Ipswich. We're still plodding along nicely. So hopefully we can flip it into a positive. But as a fan base, we've had 13 mixed 2 years aside, 13 years of just rubbish. So we are fairly downtrodden as a fan base, and all the positivity hopefully will start to come pretty quickly, and it'll make a real difference.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm struggling and failing, and hopefully someone might shout out on the pod. If not, tweet me. There is a comedy show where there's like a phrase of doing something wrong or making a mistake, and at the end of it, I think it's like, it might be like pulling a Monica or something like that, and they try and turn it around to be a positive at the end. Just put it. Anyway, if anyone knows what I'm talking,
is it not the Homer Simpson one where it's the first episode where he's really suave, and then that's just the pilot, and the next episode he turns into an absolute clown, and it's pulling a Homer.
There's a very specific one. There's doing a Dwight, which is an American office, but I daren't talk about it now.
Don't ruin it for Joe again. Yeah,
I just spoil it for you and for everyone else. But if anyone knows what I'm talking about, I don't know if it's a Friends thing or if it's something else. There's definitely they're doing something, and by the end of the episode, they try to turn it around into being a positive. But no idea what I'm talking about. But I agree with you, Seb. I think the phrase that we utter quite a lot, I think, is "and along come Ipswich ... which is a crap team on a crap run of form has a fixture against Ipswich and manages to magically turn it around. So I
think that's just a sort of fatalism that every club has. I'm sure if you speak to fans of any club, they all think that their team is the one that ends the runs, that always lets them down. Bar very few clubs, football fans are universally unhappy.
Lee asks a question which is kind of a continuation of what we've been talking about. I personally think we'll keep Dazelle, Downs, Wolfenden and Dobra. Who else do you guys think will still be here by choice come August? I guess what I should have asked as a supplementary question to Ben's question and FBL's Tractor's question is, some of the players will rise to the kind of Paul Cook challenge that he's set out, admittedly possibly in a bit of a ham-fisted way, if we're led to believe some of the chat at the end of the season. But some of the players will want to be part of this, won't they? And I'll stick the list up. I suspect Downs and Dazelle is possibly wishful thinking there, because they might end up going up higher in the division. But Wolfen and Dobra, Joe, have certainly got a part to play.
I don't think Dobra will be here.
Right.
I think Wolfenden might be, because he's on a long contract and didn't have the best of the year last year.
Advertise the shirt. You've got to read a lot into that.
Yeah, but I think Kane Vincent-Young will probably still be here, because he's obviously a good player. He's been very unlucky. I think James Nord will be here because there's no one in League One or League Two that's going to pay the wages that we pay him, and you simply can't give a player away and pay half their wages when you're doing it to a rival in your league, and that's what we'd have to do. You see in the Blackpool game, they've got Elliot Embleton, Sunderland youth product, and Sunderland losing the playoffs. Blackpool go up, and they've got their England under 17, 18, 19, 20 youth international playing for them, scoring a brilliant goal in the playoff semi-final, and you just think you just can't give away good players to other teams in your league. And I think that's sort of probably why James Nord will stay. But I couldn't tell you now who else I think would. I don't think many will be in the starting 11 come the next season. There might be some that hang about just by virtue of no one else wanting them. But I think, like I say, you're looking at James Norwood, Kane Vincent-Young, maybe Luke Wolfenden, and that's about it, really.
Leon Edwards, we haven't really discussed too much in the last few weeks. I think he's been offered something.
They've offered him a 2-year deal, I think, yeah.
Is he fishing, do you think, for something perhaps a little bit better? Or
I think it might be role as well as anything, because
right.
If you think we've signed Wes Burns, they're basically very, very similar players in style, position, where they play on the pitch. But it's funny that all the players have been told we can go, and Leon Edwards is one that we're trying to keep. It seems like I can't say I saw a huge amount from him towards the end of the season, which made me think, he's one we've got to nail down. But he's obviously someone they want to keep, so he's obviously shown something. But I don't know. Who knows really? But if he doesn't sign soon, the contract offer won't be there, because there'll be other players in his position. We can't afford to hang about.
Yep. We need him for his set piece taking ability, if anything else. Seb, any other names? I mean, Teddy Bishop.
Only as squad players, I guess. Maybe the likes of Bishop and Ken Lock and one of the keepers might still be around as squad players. Nsiala again as a squad player. But in terms of starting 11 at this point, I guess you've got the two new guys, Vincent Young. As Joe said, that's probably about it that you can actually think who will start the first game of next season. There's still going to be so much business hopefully going on, and I guess we'll just have to see where it all lays after it's all done and dusted.
And finally, kind of a two-parter from FPL Wolf, as in Wolfenden. I think we've dealt with this, so I'll just flash this up in case I've missed anything. Do you think we'll see any overseas players coming in, or will Cook stick to what he knows and trusts just to get us out of League One? I think Joe's answered that one. Can you see any Prem Champ loans coming in? I think possibly maybe to supplement.
As long as you use them as a supplement point of view. I mean, we've seen in the past the effect that a couple of really good loanees can have, the likes of Williams and Ryan Fraser and Tom Lawrence. As long as you don't get too many of them, like we have done in recent years, they can really, really add some quality to the squad. So in those kind of key positions, if you can get one or two really, really good quality players, it can make a real difference. As we've seen, the thing you don't want to do suddenly is have 5-6 lone players and you can only play 5 of them in a match day squad or whatever it is, and it just becomes ridiculous because there's no long-term planning in a transfer window. So one or two, no issue with at all if they are of really, really good quality.
And the kind of
just
first part
on that one, the overseas part, there's I don't think it's sort of been widely sort of put out there, but with Brexit there is this new GBE rules of how to get work permits, and they're very, very strict. I think there was something like, for example, like when Virgil van Dijk signed for Celtic, he would not have got a work permit to come across here. And it's almost going to be impossible for a player to come across to a League One team from abroad, because they need to be coming effectively from like a top 5 European league and have been playing European football. Well, you're not going to get players that are doing that are dropping to League One. So I just don't see any overseas players coming in at all into the league as a whole, let alone just to Ipswich, unless they've got a British passport somewhere along the lines.
That's good. Yeah, good addition there, Joe. And finally, on the questions, another one from FPL. Does Ashton coming in solve our poor scouting and recruitment, or does this still need upgrading? I was chatting to Gab Sutton about Mark Ashton this morning, and I think as football fans more generally, I think we need a little bit of educating as to what the CEO's job is and what he kind of does on a day-to-day basis. I think there's a decision-making capability there. There's a facilitating role to make sure that all the resources need to be in the right places. But I can't imagine, whilst he might have an idea on recruitment and an idea on players, and he certainly spoke to the EADT about his kind of dashboards and all that kind of stuff, it feels to me that he's not going to be doing that as kind of a core part of his job. Maybe he'll be influencing it, but it does feel like we need a head of recruitment, if that isn't Paul Cook. Any additional thoughts on that, guys?
He said several times in his interview, didn't he? He said, I'm not talent ID. That's not my skill set. That's not what I do. So I guess, that will be assigned to somebody else. Hopefully somebody will come in. There was talk, wasn't there, at the back end of the season of Scott Barron's company, being involved with analytics, that kind of stuff. So maybe that'll look to be brought in. And I guess all they'll do is identify players, and then there'll be decisions made with Ashton, the scouting team, and Cook, and it'll be passed to Ashton to get the deals done. But from a talent ID point of view, I don't think that's not what he's here for, is it? It's still an area we need to look at.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see like how many jobs have been given out that were effectively being done by presumably Lee O'Neill. That he was like, you've got a chief executive officer, a chief operating officer, these head of performance, head of analysis, recruitment jobs, and it's like it just shows how understaffed we were. And when you listen to sort of interviews over recent weeks, and sort of Kieran Dyer ones and things, it feels like almost that you've had effectively Lee O'Neill, Brian Klug, Luke Chambers and Cole Scouse. Between those 4, they've seemed to have done every off-field role, as well as sort of some of them with on-field roles, just at the club. And it's such a breath of fresh air actually getting the right people in to do the right jobs, who actually given time to do the jobs effectively, because we've just spread good people too thinly, and it's just, well, it hasn't worked for a long time. We've known that.
Round pegs in round holes. Yeah, I suspect there'll be another appointment there, won't there? But in the short term, again, to the debate we've already had, I suspect Paul Cook's targets for this summer are probably already known and are unlikely to be supplemented a great deal, perhaps. But we'll wait and see on lots of those things. And that's your lot on the questions. Thank you guys for answering those, and thank you to everyone as always for chipping in. It's kind of a weird one whether we were expecting too many questions or not in the off season, and given everyone's outside having a barbecue, except for me seemingly. So thank you for those contributions. Got some plugs to do before we head off. We've mentioned already our friends at Favourite Chicken. Give them a look, BM20, and get yourself a discount there. But plenty of excellent content been put out by the team this week. We've talked about Craig and Joe's Mark Ashton show, and educate yourself there a little bit on Mark Ashton's position and certainly what he sees his role to be in his quotes early on. Kieran Dyer's two-parter, guys. I don't know if you've managed to listen to that yet. We've got part one about his kind of his playing career and but also some of his reflections on his decisions post Ipswich and maybe the departure to Newcastle, but his philosophy on the game and England. And then the coaching one I thought was really fascinating, and some really interesting insights on some of the managers he's worked under, including Paul Hurst and Chris Doig, who ultimately their position Ipswich was decided on first team matters, but Dyer sounded really positive, didn't he, Joe, on how they tried to integrate the academy and showed a lot of time and effort to support it.
Yeah, that's something I'd seen with my own eyes. In that pre-season, every under 18, every under 23 game, there wasn't a first team game. They were over there watching every game. I remember seeing Idris El Mazzouni punch an AFC Sudbury player and get sent off, and then you saw Hurst and Doig follow him into the changing room while the game was still ongoing on. And I don't think it was to congratulate him, but obviously they sort of did help push on El Mazzouni and ended up taking him to Grimsby this year. And I say that they were good on that side, but I just think, I say we talked about recruitment earlier, but it was the recruitment that went wrong for Paul Hurst, and I think the club has suffered ever since. But no, just to go back to the Dyer interviews, I thought they were both brilliant, both sort of equally good, but totally different. And I think probably the most important part for me listening to it was Dyer talking about Cook and sort of Cook's qualities as a manager, and that did leave you feeling positive for the new season and what Cook can do here. Sort of when a player as sort of respected as and had such a good career as Kieran Dyer, who's worked alongside just sort of Bobby Robson's, George Burley here, sort of all over the country, sort of World Cups, and then he's been at Ipswich all this time. He's seen Mick McCarthy, he's seen Paul Hurst, Paul Lambert at close quarters, but he seems to have a really good relationship with Paul Cook, and that is something that, as Ipswich fans, we should be really grateful and happy to see.
Yeah, we put out the last minute or so of the second interview where he kind of gave his call to arms for Ipswich supporters and gave his optimism. Seb, any reflections from you on those shows?
No, again, just what you guys have covered, both superb things. I really enjoyed the second one. I thought it was absolutely superb. The insight and the knowledge that he's got is clearly, if you've got any kind of preconceptions of Kieran Dyer and you think of him as the party boy that went to Newcastle and, kind of maybe flitted away his career, just listen to those two interviews because they're absolutely superb. His book is also brilliant. But those two interviews were absolutely fantastic, and the stuff he was saying in the second one, it really leaves you at the end feeling positive. The stuff he's saying, because he's speaking as a fan. He's obviously a world-class footballer, but at the end of the day, he's a fan like we are as well. And some of the stuff he is saying, it's going to be good times, etc. It really, really sets you in a really good mood and a really good place, and hopefully he's going to be correct. But no, listen to them both; they are superb interviews. Thanks,
Seb. Yeah, and you can find those on our video feeds on YouTube, and on our podcast feeds as well, Acast, Apple, Google. I think we're on Spotify, all over the place. So definitely worth a listen and definitely recommend them. Fantastic feedback as well. Thank you for all the kind words and feedback on that from particularly to Phil and to Ben who conducted the interview. And I guess the good news I have is there are other options for those shows coming up in the near future, so hopefully at least one more before the summer's out. So we'll keep you posted on those, and whilst I'm at it, I may as well put up where you can find all of our bits and pieces online and on social media if you're not already aware of those. And the easiest way to get our new shows first is to subscribe, so make sure you give us a subscription. Joe, where can we find you on the Twitter just before we head off?
Yeah, just at Joe Fairs.
And Seb, if someone wants a XXL Town home share?
Yeah, at Brown SO8.
Bids start at £50 because you presumably paid for the postage, right?
No, it was free postage. I presume because I spent so much
Whoa.
money with them. I guess if you spend 96 quid on a shirt, you get free postage.
Well, my postage I had to pay for, but I didn't because I went for click and collect. So maybe because you've got the 2 shirts, you don't have to pay for postage.
Yeah, they thought, we'll lay him off because he's spending. Yeah.
Poor guy's made a drunken purchase. No, fantastic stuff, guys. You can find me at Ipswich and the channel at Blue Monday ITFC, and that's your lot. So we will keep the content and shows under review throughout the summer. We've had some really excellent feedback, by the way, on the feedback form. So thank you to everyone who completed that. We'll kind of reflect on that and formulate our strategies for next season with that in mind. So thank you for that. But if we sign 2 players next week and reveal the away kit and who knows what else, then we may or may not be back.
That's the next important one.
Is it?
Love squad numbers. Yeah,
still a bit early for the squad numbers, I think.
When's the fixture list release?
Fixtures mid-June, mid to late June, I think. So we'll keep the news under review, and if there's sufficient quantity and or quality, then the pod siren will sound and we'll see which good people we can find. The bar has been set very high by Seb and Joe, less so by my hosting, but it's early pre-season. I've got plenty of time to improve. Guys, once again, thank you very much, and stay tuned on the channel for our next show. Thanks for watching or listening to the Blue Monday podcast. And thanks to those of you who have kindly supported the channel via Acast or YouTube donations. You can follow us at the usual places on social media, and don't forget to subscribe so that you get our new shows first.